The palace is officially furious, and it's no longer just about the leaked custody deal. It's about the survival of the royal bloodline, the royals' ever-crumbling image, and the Sussexes' reckless pursuit of power. Harry, the once-cherished prince, is reported to be at breaking point with Meghan's team, as the palace is stepping in for final control. The tension was already simmering, but now it's boiling over. Every move Harry and Meghan make, every headline, and every leaked document is only adding more fuel to a fire that's already been ignited. But no one expected this, not in a million years, and especially not in the midst of the most explosive scandal the royal family has seen in decades. What is it? Well, let's dive into the insane details that are tearing apart Harry and Meghan's relationship with the royal family, and why Harry, once adored by millions, is now reportedly furious with his wife's team. You've never heard anything like this before. It all started when Meghan Markle's custody deal with Harry leaked to the press like a ticking time bomb. The whispers began early, like a quiet ripple across Buckingham Palace. But when those first details hit the tabloids, it sent shockwaves through royal corridors that no one was prepared for. The deal, a high-stakes arrangement regarding custody of their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, wasn't supposed to be public knowledge. But somewhere, somehow, an insider got hold of the papers, and from there, all hell broke loose. Imagine this: Meghan, who had been so carefully crafting her public image as a loving mother, now found herself caught in a web of lies and manipulation. The palace? Furious. They wanted to control the narrative, not have it handed to the tabloids like a hot potato, burning through their delicate royal structure. After all, how could the monarchy hold its head high if it was exposed for fumbling the simplest of agreements? How could it look like a family unit if their private matters were so publicly debated? But let's backtrack a bit, shall we? What was so controversial about this custody deal? Why did it matter so much? Well, let's just say everything Meghan did in the months leading up to that leak spoke volumes, and the palace wasn't going to let her off easy. Reports have emerged that Meghan Markle had been working on a plan to redefine her brand, a plan that involved Archie and Lilibet being at the center of it all. You read that right? The children. According to sources close to the palace, Meghan had been preparing to launch a public-facing media empire surrounding her children's lives. We're talking about multi-million-dollar campaigns using their names, faces, and royal status to fuel the next wave of the Sussex brand. Could it be that Meghan was already positioning her kids as royal commodities? When the palace found out, they were enraged. They had seen the leaks, the dealings, the branding. It was too much for the monarchy to stomach. The palace's role? Protect the legacy, ensure the children's privacy, and never let the family's name become a selling point for products or media deals. The idea of using Archie and Lilibet as pawns in this game was unacceptable to them. But what did Meghan do? She went ahead anyway. Harry, struggling in the eye of this storm, was left with a choice: stay quiet or speak out. The pressure was mounting, and the once warm and charming prince was now reportedly furious with Meghan's team for going ahead with plans to capitalize on their children's royal status. The palace, ever protective of its image, immediately put its foot down, drawing lines that Meghan couldn't cross. And that was when the relationship between Harry and Meghan began to show signs of cracking. Sources close to the Duke of Sussex have claimed that Harry, once a man of loyalty and compromise, was now deeply disturbed by the ongoing drama. Reports say he had lost his temper when he was briefed about the details of Meghan's actions, a betrayal in his eyes. How could she have gone so far? How could she have jeopardized their children's futures for the sake of a brand? The anger was palpable. The palace, it seemed, was already tightening the screws around their marriage, and Harry was not going to stand by as this spiraled out of control. The custody agreement in its final form was now being examined and tweaked by the royal family. The question was no longer about whether they would give Harry and Meghan a chance to co-parent effectively. It was about who would control the narrative and, more importantly, who would control the children. Once the leak hit, the palace went into full crisis mode. Prince William, having seen the implications of this scandal firsthand, immediately demanded that the royal family take full control of the situation. This was no longer just about family drama. This was about the future of the royal bloodline, about ensuring that the next generation of royals wasn't just a media circus. Behind closed doors, the royal family convened. Princess Anne, whose role within the palace was becoming even more critical, reportedly slammed down red folders full of evidence that Meghan Meghan's actions were a direct threat to the monarchy's stability. And let's not forget, when the leak reached Buckingham Palace, it was clear that Meghan had no plans of backing down. So, the palace forces stepped in with their final warning, the kind of power that can reshape legacies and tear families apart. But here's where it gets really interesting. What did Harry think? Did he side with the palace, or did he stand by Meghan? That's where the twist lies. Sources claim that Harry was not as firmly in Meghan's corner as the public may have believed. For the first time since his marriage, reports suggest he was questioning the moves his wife had made. Was Meghan's team out of control? Was he losing her? And as the palace moved swiftly, documents were signed and the royal family tightened its grip, Meghan was left in a position she never thought possible. A woman who once stood as a powerful figure in Hollywood and the royal family was now vulnerable. Harry's fury was only growing, and the royals were moving in for a final stand. The first signs of Meghan's growing isolation came not from the palace, but from within her own team. Reports revealed that certain members of her inner circle had quietly distanced themselves after the leak, and the reason was clear. Meghan's brand, once a golden ticket, was now facing severe backlash. Talent agents who once rushed to sign her now began backing away. Major media deals suddenly on pause. And Meghan's team, according to sources, was finding it harder to keep the storyline alive. At the heart of this growing storm, the children. Meghan's plans to leverage their royal status for personal gain had alienated even her most loyal supporters. No one was willing to publicly back a woman who was jeopardizing her children's future, even if she was once the darling of Hollywood. Oprah, long seen as a friend and protector, allegedly stepped back as well after the public backlash reached its peak. Could it be that Meghan's empowerment narrative had backfired? According to some insiders, yes. But just as Meghan found herself on shaky ground, a new conflict emerged, one that would have repercussions beyond anything she had imagined. For Harry, the situation was becoming a true nightmare. Torn between his loyalty to Meghan and the pressure from his family, Harry's anger reached a boiling point. Sources claim that during heated conversations with close friends, he expressed deep frustration over the direction Meghan was taking their family. For the first time in years, Harry was questioning the choices she was making, not just for herself, but for their children. And here's the real kicker. Prince William, who had once extended the hand of reconciliation, now found himself questioning Harry's role in this mess. Could it be that Harry, once the rebellious prince, was finally realizing the gravity of the situation? Could it be that the royal family wasn't just condemning Meghan, but also holding Harry responsible for his wife's actions? Reports from palace insiders indicated that Harry was deeply conflicted, torn between his wife's ambition and the loyalty he owed to his family. Was he ready to let go of everything for Meghan's cause? Some say Harry, in his private moments, began asking himself that very question. With each passing day, the palace began to take extreme measures to limit the damage. Princess Anne, who had already taken a decisive stand in the battle for royal succession, was now deeply involved in the legal proceedings surrounding the children. Behind closed doors, the palace's legal team worked overtime to ensure that Meghan had no final say in the matter. The official royal statement, when it finally came, was nothing short of devastating. It publicly stripped Meghan of her custodial rights and announced the formal takeover by the Crown's Child Welfare Committee. But it wasn't just about custody. The palace had clearly identified Meghan as a threat to their carefully managed public image, and they were determined to ensure that their brand remained untouched. And Harry? According to palace sources, Harry was summoned to a private meeting with his father, King Charles, and Prince William. The subject? The future of the Sussex children. Was Harry prepared to separate himself from his wife if necessary? Was he willing to take a step back from his marriage for the good of the family? While Harry was being pulled in different directions, Meghan found herself increasingly rejected by both sides. Her attempts to negotiate with the palace directly were rejected, and the legal battle for her children's custody seemed to be slipping away from her grasp. Reports began circulating that Meghan had reached out to several high-profile lawyers to fight the custody ruling, but she was met with resistance. Her most trusted allies in Hollywood turned their backs. Even Oprah, who had once been the face of Meghan's media empire, was silent on the matter. The palace's media response was unforgiving. They wanted the world to see Meghan's abandonment of her children as a direct betrayal of the royal family. And with each passing day, Meghan's brand became less valuable. Her podcast, her Netflix deal, and her attempts to reinvent herself as a solo brand were all sinking faster than she could adapt. But then, just when it seemed like Meghan had lost it all, a new development exploded onto the scene. scene. In a shocking turn of events, Harry made a bold decision. Behind closed doors, sources report that he began to consider a life outside the royal bubble. He was, for the first time, seriously contemplating divorce. But there was a twist. Harry's loyalty to the monarchy was wavering. Could it be that, after all the betrayal, Harry had decided that his place was no longer in the royal family? Could he be seeking a new future for himself and his children? The questions only mounted, and the palace was watching, waiting for Harry's next move. The silence between Harry and Meghan grew even more intense, leaving the world to wonder, was this the beginning of the end? Was Harry finally breaking free from the chains of royal duty, or was it too late? The answer? Only time would tell. Only time would tell. Only time would tell.